Governor Polis lays out a plan to bounce back.
It's time to ensure that everybody has a sturdy boat to weather any storm that comes our way.
A crisis in Texas, millions without power in freezing conditions.
We don't have water, we don't have electricity, and I've been out since 1:25 Monday morning.
We'll show you when power might be restored and explain whether a similar power problem could come up in Colorado. Plus, we're tracking the band of snow headed for the Front Range.
It is a weather action day, and as you can see from our live look over Golden here, flakes are falling fast across much of the Front Range.
Tonight's commute, yes, it could be a tricky one, judging by that picture. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson's tracking this storm. So how long is this going to stick around, Mike?
Overnight, it'll be pretty much done to flurries by daybreak tomorrow, but timing is always an issue for this evening's drive and early tomorrow morning. This is the view currently out at City Park. Just some very light snow and not much accumulation so far, but it's cold enough that this stuff's going to stick around. 27 at the top of the hour here in Denver, 20 out at Akron, in the mountains in the teens to low 20s. This is the area that has the most chance for heavy snow. Winter advisories from about the Palmer Divide all the way down to Raton Pass, where they could see about 6 to 8 inches of snow. Denver, I-25 corridor, it's going to be more 1 to 3, although in the foothills, especially just east of the Continental Divide, we could see up to 6 inches of snow coming in the next 6 to 12 hours. Pretty good band up there near Livermore right now, just to the north of Fort Collins. Denver area, it's heaviest in Jefferson County, Boulder County, up into Broomfield, lighter in Aurora at the present time. And so our weather headlines, light snow and slick roads for tonight. Clearing cold tomorrow, another chance of some snow late Saturday, but then a big warm up in the extended forecast. Details to follow.
And Colorado, we can handle this stuff, but overnight the biggest issues could be in eastern Louisiana and western Mississippi. Up to a ½ inch of ice is possible in those states, and most people there are already dealing with power outages.
Well, Texas is moving out of the line of fire tonight, but the power outages remain there. More than 2 million Texans are in the dark at this hour. Many lost power Sunday, and the lights are still off.
We're just not, this is not really livable conditions, so this is, let's take it day by day, but we're just hoping things will get better eventually.
ERCOT, that's a nonprofit council which runs Texas power grid, says the outages could last for several more days. They claim the outages are preventing, though, a much larger power issue. And coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to take a 360 look at how the weather impacted Texas power grid and whether we could see similar issues in Colorado.
Colorado officials said today they expect vaccine shipments to return to normal by the end of the week. Ice and snow in Tennessee stopped vaccine distribution on Tuesday, and it impacted more than 133,000 doses bound for Colorado. State leaders say all of those doses should arrive by Friday. And the delivery issues did not slow the pace of Colorado's vaccination effort. Almost 28,000 people received a shot yesterday. So right now, more than 12% of our state has received at least one dose. And we've told you how crucial the vaccine is to our recovery. What's not clear is when it will be available to all.
President Biden gave conflicting answers to that during a town hall last night. First saying everyone who wanted a dose would have one by the end of July, and then saying it would be available to everyone by the end of July.
And that does line up with Colorado's timeline. Since December, the governor has promised that the vaccine will be widely available by summertime, as long as there are no distribution problems.
Well, we'll surely be talking about 2020 for a long time, the pandemic, the wildfires, the racial equity protest. But somebody who didn't spend a lot of time talking about it today was Governor Polis.
The governor delivered his annual State of the State address to the legislature, and Denver7's Megan Lopez was there. And Megan, in fact, it was his shortest speech yet.
Yeah, that's right, Ann. It was his shortest State of the State address. It was only 45 minutes long. I checked back and it was a full 10 minutes shorter than the one he gave last year, 13 minutes shorter than the one that he gave the year before that. Despite the brevity, he covered a whole lot of topics, from COVID to the economic recovery to legislative priorities this session.
My fellow Coloradans,
on a COVID-compliant House floor,
many of you are facing some of the toughest challenges that we faced in our lives.
In front of a much smaller crowd than normal, Governor Jared Polis reflected on the toughest year this state has seen in a century.
I never envisioned this. I don't think any of us did. Gathering in this room, separated by plexiglass and...
State of the State speeches serve as a snapshot in time to reflect and project what's next. The governor started his speech talking about Colorado's COVID response and thanking those battling it.
Colorado's hospitals have truly been our partners in this pandemic, and I want to thank them.
Then he pivoted to the recovery, calling for cuts to senior Social Security taxes and business personal property taxes, something Republicans support.
Really like the idea of business personal property tax relief, especially for smaller businesses.
It will truly change the way that family businesses can run.
The governor also called for new investments in transportation funding, parks, and more.
And creating jobs with shovel-ready infrastructure projects today. So good jobs today benefit for generations to come.
Along with waiting for more federal stimulus funding, turns out the state has an additional roughly $1 billion in tax revenue to spend. The question is how to use it.
It's really about taking this unique opportunity at this moment in time to invest the resources that we know we have into growing jobs, reducing traffic, expanding parks.
I am reluctant to allocate those limited state tax dollars to new spending. We think we should restore the cuts that we had to effect last spring.
While Democrats applauded the speech,
I was really encouraged by the governor's words. It sounds to me like the legislative leadership and the governor are very much unified in what we think the problems are facing the state.
Republicans say it was short in length, but also on specifics. So their bottom line is,
I think that what it really says is there's a much larger conversation to have about what Colorado recovery looks like.
Now, in that State of the State address, the governor did bring up several very specific pieces of legislation that he would like to see passed this session. They include lowering prescription drug costs, investing in more school counselors, keeping state data from from helping federal agents enforce immigration policies, for instance, and more. It's now going to be up to state lawmakers to see how much of those priorities they actually can get done, given the time and the budget. I'm live from the Colorado State Capitol. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Megan, thank you very much. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock's Thanksgiving trip will not result in formal ethics violation charges. Now, Hancock, you might recall, flew to Mississippi to see family after telling his staff and Denverites to stay home during the pandemic. The mayor has apologized, and Denver's ethics board voted unanimously this morning to dismiss the complaint against the mayor. They said the mayor's behavior was troubling, but not an ethics violation. The National Western upgrades are moving slower than expected, in part because of the pandemic. City leaders announced this week that they'll ask for nearly $300 million in bonds to finish the first 2 phases of the project. The next 6 phases, which include renovations to the current arena and a new 10,000-seat arena, have just been put on hold. One official told the Denver Post that the $500 million price tag is just too steep right now.
The Littleton community still wants a 19-year-old cold case solved, and now Crime Stoppers is offering $30,000 to try and solve it. James Springer, Robert Zayas, and Aaron Gola were found shot to death at the bowling alley near Broadway and Bellevue on January 27, 2002. Gola made a phone call to a friend at 11:40 because she needed a ride, and by the time that friend got there 15 minutes later, all 3 were dead.
This community, especially the families of James, Aaron, and Robert, deserve answers.
Littleton police say a young, bald, white male with a medium build was seen leaving the bowling alley in a below-the-knee length trench coat. So again, the reward for information in this case has now been increased to $30,000.
Snows continue to increase. I'll let you know what it means for road conditions tonight and early tomorrow.
Plus, you'll meet the Colorado man who built his own solution to a relatively new problem: booking a COVID vaccine shot.
There's just a variety of ways to find vaccines.
And why one hard no from the president does not mean the student debt debate is over.